Welcome to Roll for Insight, the D&D podcast where we dive into the game, the lore, and the internet's favorite arguments. Grab your dice and your character sheet, and let's roll for insight. Hello, welcome to Roll for Insight. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the Goodberry spell of the 2024 D&D Player's Handbook. So, Goodberry is a level 1 conjuration spell for the Druid and Ranger classes. And it's one of those spells where, depending on your playstyle and campaign, you've either never cast this spell, or you cast it every single adventuring day. So, in this episode, we'll be covering the description of the spell from the Player's Handbook. We'll review some gameplay uses and examples you can bring to your table for how to use the spell. We'll get some ideas and opinions from the internet. And last, we'll end with some fun fact information about the spell. Okay, first topic. The spell details it is a level 1 conjuration spell for the Druid and Ranger. Now, the casting time is 1 action. The range is self. The components are verbal, somatic, and material. The material component is a sprig of mistletoe, and the duration is 24 hours. 10 berries appear in your hand and are infused with magic for the duration. A creature can take a bonus action to eat 1 berry. Eating a berry restores 1 hit point, and the berry provides enough nourishment to sustain a creature for 1 day. Uneaten berries disappear when the spell ends. So a few clarifications here. At its core, Goodberry creates the 10 magical berries, and each has 2 key effects. The first being it restores 1 hit point, the second being it provides enough nourishment for 1 full day. So the action economy change, this is important. Eating a berry is a bonus action, and that is a pretty big quality of life improvement. It used to be 1 action to eat a Goodberry. Now, this makes Goodberry usable in combat without fully giving up your turn to eat it. So the healing breakdown here, the total healing provided by the Goodberry spell is 10 hit points per casting, but it is spread across multiple uses and multiple bonus actions. And that means this is not burst healing, but it is very flexible. The duration and the storage also is very useful. It lasts the entire 24 hours. However, the uneaten berries do disappear afterward. So you can prepare these ahead of time before adventuring. So this makes the berries pretty useful because then you can give this to other people and other players. You can give it to your allies. You can give them to NPCs. You can potentially give them to unconscious creatures. That's going to be DM dependent though. But besides the healing factor, the nourishment does provide a lot of social and utility uses. So let's get into the gameplay uses now. This is where Goodberry becomes more than just healing. So there are emergency healing and stabilization situations where it's going to be useful. You can bring allies back from low hit points. Now keep in mind it is only 1 per bonus action. But this can also prevent someone from going down. Spreading that healing across multiple party members is extremely useful, especially at low levels when you don't have big hit point pools anyways. So as an example, instead of using a full healing spell and healing 1 ally, you can use the Goodberry spell, hand out the berries, and let allies heal themselves as needed to bring everybody up a little bit. Now, there is a lot of combat efficiency now with the bonus action to eat, because now you can attack and heal, you can move and heal, and it is small healing, but it does keep people standing. Being able to recover 2 to 3 hit points in a combat does sometimes make a difference even at high-level campaigns. Now, there's also a lot of out-of-combat healing utility here too, because it does help you stretch your resources over long adventuring days. It's efficient to recover hit points without using the spell slots repeatedly, and it does prevent overhealing since you're only doing 1 at a time. Now, switching over to the survival and exploration uses of Goodberry. This is one of the most underrated parts of the spell for sure. Now, each berry provides a full day of nourishment. So with this spell and 1 casting of the level 1 spell, you can completely ignore food requirements, usually for the entire party, plus several others. So now you can survive in wilderness, in deserts, in frozen environments where there's no food to go around, and you can start casting in multiple times to support NPCs or entire groups or small villages with 10 berries per casting. So as an example, if you're lost in the woods with no supplies, 1 casting feeds everybody. So again, fantastic for resource management, and it does reduce the reliance on things like rations and supply tracking and survival checks to find food. This can completely change how a campaign handles survival in the wilderness. Now, there is some pre-planning and preparation that can go into this too, because you can cast this before resting. So you start the day with the 10 berries ready. So if you have extra spell slots when the day is done, use those spell slots to create extra berries and then eat those to heal the next day. So you can basically go into a dungeon already stocked up with emergency healing because of that 24-hour duration on the spell. Now, there are a lot of roleplay opportunities for the Goodberry spell besides just feeding the starving NPCs in the village. You can also use food as a peace gesture, not just to people, but sometimes to creatures or animals. You can also use this as proof of magical abilities, or you can support refugees and civilians in wartime. So there are lots of options of when you can cast a spell and support the people around you. Now, switching gears here, going over to benefits and limitations. Some benefits of the Goodberry spell: it is extremely efficient as a level 1 spell slot usage. You can compare it to things like a level 1 Cure Wounds, which cures 2d8 plus the spellcasting modifier. So yes, technically you are sometimes going to be healing less than what you can out of Cure Wounds, but this is a for certain 10 hit points of healing. But it also combines the healing with the survival and the utility. It also benefits from the pre-planning and the pre-casting or preparing the night before, and it gives you that flexible healing distribution, plus it works in and out of combat. So it is definitely one of the better resource management spells in the game if you're using it properly. Now, limitations, definitely, because there is only 1 hit point per berry that you're healing, so this is not effective burst healing, and it does require a bonus action to use. Now, that can be good or bad in your opinion, because if you're in combat, that can be great because the bonus action, you get that top up, and you have a use for your bonus action now if you didn't before. However, the 1 hit point, that's a slow build in the health pool. Plus, you have the limited 24-hour duration. You can't load up on them for weeks at a time in your downtime, and then come into the day with 50 of these good to go without burning spell slots. You will also see a lot of limitations to this spell, and it will be less impactful if you don't do the food tracking, or if healing is abundant in your campaign and you've got lots of spells and potions and scrolls to use. Or if combat is very high damage or a lot higher level, Goodberry might fall off on the healing side of things. But now moving on to internet discussions and opinions. So, a common criticism of Goodberry, not that it doesn't work, but that it actually breaks the survival mechanics. And that's pretty common because Goodberry removes the hunger and the food scarcity side of things, and that can really trivialize survival campaigns. But that's what magic is for sometimes. Some people think that this is one of the best low-level spells and consider it a top-tier level 1 spell, especially for the long adventuring days or the resource-heavy campaigns where you're tracking every ration, every supply, every rest, everything all the time. So, on the positive side, this is a perfect support design. It's a great spell to support that. It doesn't overpower combat, and it really just smooths things out for everybody. And it keeps the party going without stealing the spotlight as a spell. However, if your campaign is not touching the survival mechanics, then yeah, you're probably never going to use this to its full extent. Now, last topic here, some fun fact information about the Goodberry spell. So, the material component for Goodberry is a sprig of mistletoe. And this has some really interesting real-world and mythological roots here. So, in mythology, mistletoe was considered sacred in a lot of Celtic and Druidic traditions, and it was typically associated with healing and life and protection, and Druids believed that mistletoe had a very powerful restorative property and magical properties. Now, there's also a Norse connection to the mythology here because mistletoe appears in the story of Balder, a Norse god, and it was the only plant not sworn to protect him. And so it was used in the myth surrounding his death. So this gives mistletoe a very unique dual symbolism because it's both life-giving but also dangerous. Now, in real-world use, historically, mistletoe has been used in things like herbal medicines and ritual practices and fertility and healing traditions. So using mistletoe as the material component for the Goodberry spell seems very intentional because it does represent the natural magic that sustains life. And that's exactly what Goodberry does. It feeds, it heals, and it sustains. Well, that's it for this session of Roll for Insight. Thanks for listening, and thank you to all our supporters on patreon.com/rollforinsightpodcast. And we will see you next time.